Hello and a good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you all. We're going to people with the tube. Hope today, hope you're feeling grand and always when you will. I apologise for my phone, but like I say, it wouldn't be a day video without the phone dinging. Anyway, welcome to AMQ Wednesday, everybody. Let's get to question one, shall we? Yes, I think we shall. Okay, so question one today is on a strat setup with tens, on a strat setup with gauge 10 strings, can I just swap to nines without doing any setup changes? I would say yes, personally. I've never, when I switched to nines on my white strat and my red Oswald, I didn't do any setup changes. I didn't adjust the truss rod, I didn't adjust the intonation or anything like that, and it was all okay. So, and that's the way it's always been for me. I've always kind of flip-flopped between nines and tens. So, and I've never once altered anything about the guitar unless it needed doing, which is very, very rare. You know, I don't touch the truss rods unless it's kind of like, you know, gets silly. But yeah, I mean, I would say personally, I think you'll be fine. It's a very minute kind of switch. You know what I mean? You might have, depending on how you've got your neck set, but because the thing about my guitars is I like them with a slight bit of relief in the neck, so you know, I don't like necks perfectly flat. Well, actually, that's a lie. On some guitars, I like the necks perfectly flat. The Gem being one of them, I like the neck perfectly flat on the Gem. But on most of my guitars, like the Strats and my Telly and my Les Pauls, I like the neck with a slight kind of relief in it, so it curves upwards like that. But nothing really happens when I change strings to that relief. It's kind of, you know, that's the truss rod set. But yeah, I mean, I would say invariably you'll be okay. You won't have to change anything. You don't have to alter anything. I never have, you know. And as I flip-flop between nines and tens like a lunatic. But I do like nines on the red Oswald and the white Strat. I think they're the only ones that have got... No, so the Gem's got nines, because the Gem loves nines. I don't think I'd even bother trying to put anything heavier on the Gem. I think 9s/8s work really well on that kind of guitar. I think of any of the guitars I've got that I've flipped and flopped around with. No, I mean, in all fairness, I mean, I do think you'll be okay. I mean, I've in my experience, what I've done, and I say I've switched between nines and tens for years and years and years and years, and I've never once between the two string gauges had to alter anything. The only time I had to really alter the guitar is when I went to 11s at one point from 10s, and it put so much relief in the neck, it was like a banana. And but they lasted about, I think, a day. I think 11s lasted about a day, and I took them off and went back to 10s. But I flip-flop between 9s and 10s, and I never change anything. So I think you'll be alright, yeah. In my experience, anyway. Like I said, though, it does depend on your neck. If your neck's flat and you put 9s on it, you might get a little bit of a back bow, which means you might have to adjust the truss rod back in. But I don't know. I really don't know. In my experience, what I've done with my necks having the slight bit of relief in them, because like I said, I don't like stupid flat necks unless it's stuff like the Gem. In which case, because of the way that guitar is with its flat fretboard, it works really well. But on most of my kind of like strats and stuff, like I do like that relief in there. So when I put a different gauge string on, the neck doesn't really go anywhere. But if your neck's flat, I could imagine maybe a neck going into a little bit of a back bow, because there's not enough tension to kind of like pull it up. In which case you might have to adjust the truss rod. But I don't know. I've never experienced that myself. That's the only thing I can really think of that would throw it. Would be to it basically, if your neck's perfectly flat and there's less tension on that, if your neck's flat with 10s and it's got that tension kind of set, putting 9s on with less tension might just cause it kind of like to back bow a little bit. But I've never experienced that. But that's the only thing, like hypothetically speaking, that's the only thing I can think of that maybe might happen, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. People of the tube, chime in, let us know. Changing from gauge 10s to 9s. Have you experienced any kind of issues in the past? Let us know in the comment section below. Because like I say, for my experience, I haven't. I mean, I haven't. When I put 9s on the Red Oswald, it came with 10s. When I put 9s on it, nothing changed. It's still, the only thing that feels different is like, the slinkiness of the string in comparison to a 10. And the same thing with my white Strat. I mean, my white Mexican Strat, I've flip-flopped between 10s and 9s on that thing since 2004. It came with 9s, and initially I had 9. No, I initially went straight to 10s, didn't adjust anything, and then I went to 9s, and I went to 10s, and I went to 9s, and I went to 10s, and it's back to 9s at this point in time. I really like it with 9s. It's very, very nice with 9s. But who knows? It might, next week I might change it to 10s again. Who knows? But yeah, so I personally think you'll be okay. I doubt very highly you'll have any major issues, like I say, apart from what I've mentioned. Other than that, I think you'll be alright, because like I say, funny enough, I've gone back to 10s on the 62. I had 9s on the 62 Strat for a couple of months, and it just didn't like it. It didn't like the 9s at all, and I didn't like it either. It felt weird. So I put 10s back on the 62, and it immediately kind of came back to life. It was like, yes. It was a lot happier. Same thing with my John Frusciante Oswald. I tried 9s on that, and it just didn't work at all. Is there any other guitars I've tried with weird strings? No, I mean, that's about it, really. So yeah. Les Pauls. I hate Les Pauls with 10s. Like, I've changed all my single cut guitars are back to 9s now, and it's just like, that's so much better. I hate 10, on anything single cutty like a Les Paul. It just, oh my god, I just don't like it at all. I really don't. They have to be 9s on a guitar like that for me. I really don't like it. Unless my Epiphone, the custom, the black custom, that's got 11s on it, but that's in open C, so they're like really spaghetti anyway. Really, really loose, because it's I'll say down tunes. Excuse me. Devon Townsend tuning. Anyway, so yeah, you should be totally fine. I'll say the only thing I can think of, like I say, is the neck, but that's about as far as it will go. Yeah, so you should be totally fine. That's like my experience as well. Okay, so I hope it's a question. Like I say, people of the tube, let us know in the comment section below if you've experienced any issues with doing that kind of thing. Let us know. Okay, so moving on to question 2 now, which I have labelled as 3 on the paper for some reason. Clever. Okay, so anyway, so there's 2 question 3s. Weird paradox. 2 question 3s. But question 2 is not a 3. It is but a 2. But it's not a 3. But it's labeled as 3. Anyway. Yeah, so question 2. What are your thoughts on Slash? Okay, my thoughts on Slash. I love Slash. Slash is kind of like, I think I've told this story before, but I'm going to have to tell it again. Slash was the first guitarist I saw doing guitar solos, and he was the first guitarist that made me want to do guitar solos, because I remember it was in the first year of me playing guitar, so 2002, and I was just playing solely Green Day and Offspring. That's all I played. Oh, and some punk songs like Undertones, Sex Pistols, stuff like that, Elvis Costello, playing songs like that. So there wasn't any real solos, you know what I mean? It was all kind of power chords and just bashing on the guitar. So I remember my friend Paul. He was a big Guns N' Roses fan, and we were around at my friend Tom's house one night, and he bought around a VHS video of the Use Your Illusions tour, 1992, at the Tokyo Dome, I think it is, and it was it was a 2-video thing, and it was the whole set. Basically, it was like the whole gig, but it was split to 2 videos. I actually have it on DVD. A couple of years later, I saw it in Virgin Megastore on DVD, and I bought both of them that day. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, go back to the story, Dave. So I was so he bought this video around and said, "Oh, I've got this video of Guns N' Roses live. Do you want to watch it?" And we were like, "Oh yeah, definitely." Anyway, so the video opened up, and on the DVD it starts with "You could be mine, you could be mine, you could be mine." But I don't remember that on the video. I remember it starting with Matt Sorum's drum solo, which is a crazy 10, 15-minute drum solo of him basically going crazy on his drum kit. Anyway, after Matt Sorum's drum solo, it became Slash's guitar solo. And I just remember watching this guitar solo thinking, how in the name of all that's holy is he doing that? Like, he was doing all these trills and all the Slash runs and these crazy kind of things. And he had a gold top Les Paul as well. And that was when I fell in love with gold top single cut guitars. That was the moment. That video, in the first year of me playing guitar, gold top with a dark back, that was immediately my, that was it. I was in love with gold top Les Pauls from that point on. And so I do apologise. I'm so sorry. I really don't learn, do I? Okay, so he was doing all these guitar solos, and he went after this kind of crazy kind of, I don't know how long. He starts off on a talk box, which I had never heard anything like that. I'm gonna have to shut that up, aren't I? Because it's just gonna go crazy. I don't understand what's going on here. Okay, silent. Okay, so he was on a talk box initially, Slash was, and then he went just to kind of like his normal Les Paul tone. And I just remember the guitar tone was amazing. And he went to the neck pickup, and then he went to the Godfather theme, and I was just like, oh my god. And the sound that he had in that gig, I'm just like, to this day, it's one of my favourite guitar tones of all time. The sound that Slash has at that gig. And the sound that Slash had during the Use Your Illusions tour anyway is like one of my favourite Les Paul rock sounds, if you will, because it's just so gorgeous. Those Silver Jubilees that he used, sound ridiculously good. And so he went to the Godfather theme, and I was just like, and it gives you this amazing close-up of his fingers, and I was in awe of him. I just remember watching this video going, I don't know what he's doing, but I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to do that. It's so cool. And I remember asking to borrow the VHS video. I was like, can I borrow it? And he was like, yes, of course you can. So I borrowed it, and I spent hours in this very room trying to figure out the Godfather solo. And little did I know, I mean, I was trying to figure it out on my Washburn. Little did I know they were down-tuned half step. I had no concept of what down-tuning was. You know what I mean? I had no idea. No one knew that they were down-tuned to E flat. So I was figuring it out, and I was like, oh, this is in a really weird place. You know, it felt in a weird place because you could see where his finger was, but the note was next to it, and I'm like, well, why is it not where he's playing it? It never dawned on me, like that. It was down tuned. I didn't think that was a thing. I thought it was E, A, D, G, B, and E, and that was what you got. I didn't realize you could down tune things. I'd only been playing guitar for probably about 6-7 months by this time. It was winter time, 2001. So I'd started in May that year. Anyway, I just remember like learning this song. I still know it to this day, exactly how I kind of figured it out. And I remember learning it, and that was the first kind of guitar solo I ever learned, was the Godfather theme, Slash's version of it. But I had to stop because when the band kicks in, it just went too fast, and I couldn't keep up. I couldn't figure it out. So I figured out what I could and then forgot the rest, and basically didn't bother learning the rest because it was beyond my ability at that time. But I remember like just loving the fact of kind of like, you know, I could do this kind of single note stuff. I was like, what's this? Like, solo is crazy. But that was the first solo I learned, and Slash is the guitarist that made me want to learn solos. Because John Frusciante by that time obviously was kind of like a big hero of mine, but I wanted to learn to play like his chord stuff, and plus in that kind of that type of pop special, John didn't do any kind of crazy guitar solos really, apart from Give It Away, but which I thought was cool. But it was Slash really that kind of made me go, I want to do guitar solos. John made me want to do that kind of Jimi Hendrix style chordal thing, but Slash made me want to do guitar solos, and then obviously down the rabbit hole we went. I started to learn, stuff like Sweet Child of Mine, and then obviously started to learn some of John Frusciante's guitar solos. I remember learning the Other Side solo for the first time, and I was like, this is like amazing. I was like, it's so cool, and it's like 3 notes. The original Other Side solo was like 3 notes, and it's just amazing. And I was just like, wow. I remember learning that, and then obviously I figured out the Californication solo that John does on that Top of a Pop special, because John improvises a solo to it, and I remember figuring that out. It's amazing. So cool. It wasn't until many years later, actually, I figured out the original Californication solo. I stuck solely to this improvised one that John did, because I just liked it more. Until one day I thought, I'm going to learn the original, and I sat down and really learned the original. But yeah, so thoughts on Slash. I mean, I love it. I love his guitar tone. I love how he plays. He's just, like I say, he's the kind of the main guy who's responsible for getting me into doing guitar solos and wanting to do guitar solos, because when I saw him doing those things on the Use Your Illusion tour, I was like, this is literally so cool. I want to be able to do that. And, and like I say, that's where the rabbit hole started for that one. But I love his guitar tone. I love his sound. I love his playing. I love his feel. He's just, and he looks super cool all the time, which isn't fair. It's just a really cool kind of like, and what a cool life he's had. You know what I mean? It's such a cool thing. But yeah, I mean, I love him. I really do. He's a guitar hero of mine, but he's not up there as big as like John, Rory, Jimmy, or Peter, or Mike McCready. He's not up there without like top 5, but he's definitely in the next 5. If you know what I mean. It's like between Paul Kossoff, there's there's Slash in there as well. Like Paul Kossoff, Slash, and a couple of other guitarists. I can't think of it at this point in time. My brain's not working because I'm too busy thinking about other things. But yeah, so I love Slash. Like I say, he's not in the top 5 guitarists for me anymore. He probably, for the longest time, I just wanted to be him. And I remember in the second year of me playing guitar, in 2003, that'd be when I got my Epiphone Les Paul, and I really wanted a gold top, but they didn't have any. So I got the Cherry Burst one, which was kind of like, not particularly what I wanted, but like, beggars can't be choosers kind of thing. You got what you got. And there wasn't much choice. And I thought, I've seen Slash with one of these, because Slash did have a Cherry Burst kind of one on the Usual Install, so I was quite happy either way. And I still love that guitar. I mean, I don't think it sounds very good though. It's an okay sounding guitar, but it's not a great sounding guitar. My Epiphone, that's why it's on the wall. So that's why I don't play it a great deal. Although I do like it with the Gauge 7 strings on it. It's great fun, but I don't play it a great deal. But yeah, but I do love Slash. Like I say, he's the one who kind of started this kind of solo thing, and then John Frusciante basically took over, and then Jimi Hendrix took it over from there, and then it was John and Jimmy, and then Mike came in, Mike McCready, and then it was Rory, and then it was Peter, and all these people kind of cropped in, and then Paul Kossoff obviously, and all sorts of other people. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on Slash. I absolutely love him. He's so cool. I'd love to meet him. He's one of those people I'd love to meet. Because I get the impression he's a really nice guy. I don't know if I'm wrong in that one, but he just comes across as like a really nice kind of person. If I ever got a chance to meet him, I'll get him to sign my first ever Epiphone Les Paul, because the 16, 17-year-old Dave would go fangirl crazy. He'd go crazy in the fact that Slash signed that guitar, because if it ever happened and I did get him to sign it, if I could go back in time and say to my 16-year-old self, one day the person who you're learning and look up to at this point in time will sign that guitar, he would lose his mind. Anyway, so yeah, that's my thoughts on Slash. Love him. And I say that Use Your Illusions guitar tone he had, like 91, 92 with the Silver Jubilees, the Gold Top Les Paul, and the Cherry Burst Les Paul. Oh, disgustingly filthy and gorgeous. Okay, so yeah, I hope that's a question. Move on to question 3. Question 3 is: have you experienced manipulation and negativity from outside a band you've been in that's led you to near madness or caused your group to disintegrate? Okay, so yeah, so so let me just reiterate thing because I probably didn't read that out very well. So have I experienced any kind of manipulation and negative kind of things that have made a band collapse from the outside of a band? Not not really. I mean, most of the negativity I've experienced when I'm in bands comes from internally in the band. It doesn't really come from outside interference most of the time. There were occasional things, but nothing major. Mainly the bands I've been in that are kind of like broken up and blown up, it's either spectacularly or just fizzled out. It's mainly internal. It's not really external. I mean, I can't say I've really experienced any kind of negativity from the outside. Really. I'm just trying to think. I've been in so many bands, it's hard to kind of keep track of all of them. But yeah. No, I can't think of any real kind of... There's been the kind of odd occasion where somebody from the outside of the band's gone, I think you should be doing this, I think you should be doing that, and it's caused a bit of a rift. But invariably the bands I've been in have disintegrated because of internal fights and differences and difference of opinion and I beg to differ and all this kind of thing. So manipulation. Haven't really experienced any kind of manipulation. Well, actually, yeah, I'll tell a lie. With Gimbal, we kind of got manipulated a little bit by that record company when we were gonna get we got offered a single deal for one of our songs, and it was dodgy. I mean, I've still got the contract, and maybe I'll do a video on it one day because it's hysterical. It's so bad. We kind of got a bit manipulated from the outside there, and there was a few people saying, "Oh, you need to sign it," and then there were some people saying we shouldn't sign it. So there was a lot of outside influence on us then, and oddly enough, actually, I come to think of it now, putting it into that kind of context, that is really what destroyed the band. That record, the single contract we got offered, it was kind of literally kind of like that's what, you know, it was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to say. So yeah, I suppose I have experienced it in a way, but the band has kind of imploded because me, the bass player and the drummer refused to sign his contract because it was just like it was naff. It was so crap. But the singer thought we should sign it, and so that created a rift between like the three of us, and then to him, it was he kind of started to distance himself from us because he thought that was kind of his chance. And we ruined it for him when we were actually just looking out for the best interests of the band, not trying to get kind of like rich and famous kind of thing, which wouldn't have happened with this contract because this contract was a mess. I suppose it kind of was, and I remember like there was a few people who were saying like, why didn't you sign it? And other people saying, no, yeah, don't sign it. And so I suppose that's about as far as it's gone. Other bands I've been in, it's always kind of like been kind of like internal. You know what I mean? Like, somebody falls out with somebody else, or somebody doesn't like what other person's doing, or doesn't like their opinion on something, or what they should be doing, or whatever. So it's mainly been internal, but I suppose that is kind of like a good example of external influence on what was going on, because we were kind of, that band was kind of destroyed. It was the worst thing that ever happened to that band because we were doing so well. We had such a good kind of big following. Everything was really working really well, and we had great songs. We had a really good, strong fan base, and we were really starting to get somewhere. And in all fairness, getting that single deal was probably the worst thing that could have happened to that band because it destroyed it. It really did. It created all sorts of problems, and as a result, it died. That's so rubbish. Because I still, back at that time, 2005 and 6, I think maybe into 2007, I forget offhand. When I was in that, when we were doing that band Gimbal, like it was literally, because I'd never kind of experienced that in a band before. I'd been in bands obviously previously to that for about 3 years, but nothing on that level where you kind of have people singing your songs back to you when you play them live. you know, and you've got a fan base and you've got loads of people really enjoying what you do. It was, you know, and you're really starting to pick up momentum and go places with it. It's kind of it was a hard thing to say goodbye to be honest with you. It was a hard thing to accept it was over, and the way it was over was it just went so bad. You know, it just went so bad how it ended, and the whole thing of like, you know, me getting told there wasn't a gig when there was, and then finding out it was another guitarist they'd got in behind my back. They just didn't want me to play with them. It's like, it was bad. That's bad. You know, if you don't like somebody, tell them you don't. You know, just say, I don't want you to be in a band anymore, or you're fired. Don't just get another guitarist in behind your back and then just kind of lie. Vile stupidity. Still gets on my nerves now. Think about it. Because I just don't know why you would do that. It's just silly. Anyway, but yeah, there have been occasions where it's kind of like negativity from outside of a band, or inside mainly though. It is mainly inside. Bands are kind of weird internal things. You know, you do get the odd occasional thing where, you know, one of my friends doesn't like you, ergo I don't like you, or whatever, you know, or there's outside influence. I don't think you should do that in your band. I think you should do this instead, you know. And I think what that comes down to then is like your integrity to kind of go, no. You know what I mean? Like the thing is, when you are a band, I don't think you should listen to outside interference. You know, it's all about however many people in the band, 3, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, whatever it is. You know, it's all down to you. Not anybody else. It's your band. It's not up to anybody to twist and manipulate you into doing something you wouldn't do. You know what I mean? And I think you've got to stick. Integrity is super important. You know, you have to have integrity in everything you do. You have to stick by your guns. If you go to do something, you've got to see it through for better, for worse. You know what I mean? Because I always think of people like Rory Gallagher when I think of like integrity, because Rory was just full of it. He never ever, he never released a single. He was an album guy, and I remember reading his book, Riding Shotgun, that Jerry McAvoy wrote. And there was a story in there where they did the album Photo Finish, and was it Photo Finish? Yes, it was, because it's my favourite album. Because the initial Photo Finish... Or was it Photo Finish? My brain's going a bit blank now. It's not Top Priority. I'm just going to say Photo Finish for the time being, but people of YouTube, if you know, correct me please in the comment section below. Anyway, what they recorded... Rory recorded one of his albums, and... Hang on a minute, I'm gonna have to check. It's gonna drive me insane. What? Speak among yourselves a sec. This is gonna drive me insane if I don't look. Oh, maybe it isn't. I do apologise, people of YouTube, but this is really bothering me a little bit. I'm just going through my record collection of Rory Gallagher. Gallagher. Sorry, I do apologise. It's not against the grain, is it? No. Why am I not finding... Okay, one sec, people. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's definitely Photo Finish, although the album Calling Card has the song Edged in Blue on it, but I don't think it's Calling Card. But I remember the record company wanted to release Edged in Blue as a single, and Rory said no, because Rory didn't do singles, he did albums. But I'm pretty sure it was Photo Finish, because they recorded it once. Yes, it is. It is Photo Finish. Thank you. Thank you, CD. Because they recorded Photo Finish once, and something happened. I forget exactly, kind of like thing, but it wasn't the way Rory wanted it to sound. Anyway, Rory's brother Donald got the kind of like the test kind of pressing, if you will, of the album, and it had been messed with. Somebody had kind of produced the album, and Rory did not like it. And Donald said something along the lines of like, Rory didn't swear. He didn't swear or anything like that. And he took the album and he threw it in the bin, and he said this is what they can do with their I can't remember the exact swear word he used, but this is what they can do with their album. And he threw it in the bin. And this was right before Donald had to go and see basically Rory's managers, at the record company, because he was like, he wasn't happy with it, and he was not going to put it out under his name, sounding like that, because he said it doesn't sound like me. I'm not going to do it. And they went and re-recorded it in a different studio, and I'm pretty sure Rory, I think he produced it all, but Rory always had a hand in producing it, and yeah, he did. He helped produce this with another guy. And because that's Rory's life. His music is his life. No one's gonna come between him and his music. It's like I remember there's a great story of Buddy Holly. Somebody asked Buddy Holly why does he produce and do his own song? Why does he do his own songs that way? He says, well, why would I hire somebody who doesn't know what the song sounds like? Because he could hear the song. That's not verbatim. That's me kind of paraphrasing, but Buddy Holly was that same kind of thing. He's like, I'm not going to hire somebody to tell me how my song sounds when I know how it's supposed to sound, And Rory was the same with Photo Finish. He was like, nope. And I do believe that Rory got dropped from a record company because he was like, no. And he went and just did this off his own back and went and redid Photo Finish in a studio in Germany. And got the album to sound like the album he wanted. And Photo Finish is my favourite Rory album. I think it's just... There's so many amazing songs on there. I mean, you've got... It starts with Shin Kicker, Brute Force and Ignorance, Cruise on Out, which is an amazing song. Cloak and Dagger, amazing song. Overnight Bag, Shadow Play. Mississippi Sheiks, which is an amazing song. Last of the Independents has got one of the coolest riffs of all time. Fuel to the Fire has probably one of the most gorgeous guitar solos ever played. It's an amazing album, Photo Finish. And... That's what I mean by integrity. You have to stick by things. You have to kind of stay true to what you are. And I feel this is kind of what killed Kurt Cobain. Because Kurt had control over his music for Bleach, In Utero, and Nevermind. Although I do believe In Utero was after Nevermind. Although it's mainly songs from before. But anyway, Kurt had sort of control over those, and when it came to In Utero, he knew what he wanted it to sound like. He wanted it to sound trashy, and that's why he got I forget his name can't remember his name. Whoever to record it. I remember that, and Kurt knew what he wanted it to sound like, but obviously the record didn't want that, so they took it and re-engineered it and remixed it and made the guitars less harsh, made it a bit more kind of like radio friendly, and I think that was kind of the last straw for Kurt, because Kurt, I feel, was kind of one of those people that I don't have much in my life that I can control, but I've got my music. And when he lost control of his music, I think he was kind of like, well, that's it then. If I can't control my music and they won't let me control my music, there's no point. And I can understand it. I really can understand that mindset of kind of because, and especially from somebody, from my perspective, I've suffered with anxiety problems all my life, and I've felt for 20 odd years totally out of control. So, guitar and music to me is something I can control. I know what I'm doing with that, and it's within my power to be able to control it. And if something was to take that away, I can kind of imagine it wouldn't do me many favours. And that's just the way it works. And I feel that's the same way kind of Rory Gallagher felt about the original Photo Finish, and Kurt felt about thinking, and Jimi Hendrix as well, getting poked to do Hey Joe and Purple Haze and Voodoo Child all the time, and Foxy Lady. It's I don't want to do that. And I think that's when you kind of got to kind of stand up and go, no, I'm not doing that. I can't do that for my own. You have to. There are certain points in your life, I think, where you have to think selfishly, and you have to think about yourself and think about what you want, not what other people want from you, if that makes any sense. You have to... There are occasions where you have to do what you have to do, if that makes any sense, You can't always be what people want you to be, and you can't always do what people want you to do. Sometimes you have to step outside that and go, no, that's against what I want to do. I'm not doing it. And Rory was the same with that original Photo Finish. I think Kurt, his tipping point was losing control of his album, of his music. I do think that maybe going off and, and I do believe that had a big role in his suicide, and I do believe that is an extreme thing, but I can understand why he did it. I can totally understand why he did it. I'm not condoning that kind of thing, but I can totally understand why. If you feel like you've got no control in your life, I know how that feels, and I'm sure quite a lot of us do. It does give you that hopeless feeling of like, oh, if I've got no control, then what's the point? Because that's exactly where I've been time and time again. Like, you just feel like you've got no control over anything that you're doing. And if you feel out of control, you just want to put the brakes on by any means necessary. And I do really feel that's what did Kurt in, personally. I really don't, for 1 second, think that... I think if In Utero had come out the way he wanted it to, I think he'd still be here. I really do. I really do think he'd still be here. If the record company hadn't sabotaged him, because it was sabotage. The album still sounds great, but you can tell it's watered down. The guitars sound very, very clean. They're not as distorted and gnarly as the Nevermind guitars or the Bleach guitars or the Incesticide guitars. You know what I mean? They're not as gnarly, and they're not as gnarly as Kurt would play. They're far too clean for what Kurt's guitar tone was. And it's sad, really, that other people kind of like poke their heads in. But I do feel that, like, I remember listening to a thing that Neil Young said. Neil Young said he wanted to talk to Kurt. He never got a chance. But he wanted to talk to him and say to him, look, you don't have to do anything anybody tells you to do. Just quit the label, quit the tour, and go home. You're Kurt Cobain. You have that name. You are Kurt Cobain. You can do whatever you want. He was a millionaire. Kurt could have gone back to Seattle and bought his own studio, set up his own studio, and recorded and released music that he wanted to do. He could have done that. He chose not to, which is on him. Unfortunately, I love Kurt, but that is on him. That was his choice to do what he did. But he could have done that, and Neil Young is a good example of that. Neil Young has always stayed true to himself. And Rory Gallagher, he always stayed true to himself till the very end. He was what he was, and he always did what if it wasn't right, he wasn't going to do it. Same thing with Edged in Blue being a single. They could we can put Edged in Blue out as a single, Rory Gallagher song. And he was like, no, don't do that. I'm not doing that. Same with The Clash, not going on top of the Pops. Clash never went on top of Pops. They refused to go on top of the Pops. It's that kind of thing that kind of, I think, makes these artists. And I love it. And Jimmy kind of sticking by his guns and doing certain things. And, I love that kind of thing. I really do. I love people who show and have integrity. It's so cool. I don't like it when, bands just kind of fold themselves neatly into a producer's lap just because they said, oh, well, we don't want you to do this. Or you've done that now. We want you to do this now. We want you to go down this alley because we want you to. It's not cool. It's not cool to do that. I remember there's a thing of Dick Dale saying Dick Dale said don't sign contracts just so you can go and ride in fancy buses. He says it'll only lead to problems. Exactly right. Anyway, I'm going to have to move on because I've got one more question. I'm going to run out of time. But yeah, I could talk about it for hours and hours and hours, and I don't know how I got there. But, tangents! Okay, so, but yeah, I do believe that, integrity is the most important thing in the world. And like I say, when it comes down to a band, you have to have integrity. Or a solo artist, you have to have integrity. You have to know what you want, and you have to follow that through for better, for worse. You have to stick by your guns. Don't fold just because. You really have to take the pressure and the weight and just go with it sometimes. And you do come out the other end for better, for worse. You fail or you succeed, but failing is a success in another way. You know what I mean? Failure is never failure. You know what I mean? You just learn. You learn from failure, so it's not a bad thing. Failing is a good idea. Is always important. I think it's a good idea to fail, because if you never failed, you would never learn anything. Anyway, moving on. So I'm going to move on to final question today. Question 4 now. So final question today is: do you have any plans for the Burns steer guitar? No. I don't like it. I don't. The thing is, it's I've been trying. I don't. The person who sent it to me, it needs to go back. I don't want the guitar. I don't like I haven't played it since the video. it's sat in its case. I keep on top of its maintenance and make sure it's okay and it's in tune, make sure nothing's shifted or gone wrong. But I don't like the burn steer. I just don't like it. It's a really ugly. It's just not a very nice guitar. Well, it is to some people. To me, I don't like it. In my opinion, it's not a guitar for me. So it needs to go home because it's with me, and it shouldn't be with me. It should be at home. So I have no plans for burn steer. No, I don't intend to include it in any videos. I don't intend to play it again in a video. I don't intend to use it again for anything. I don't like it. So no, I don't have any plans for burn steer at all. It needs to go home. So I don't know how long I've had it for now, but I kept kind of trying to contact. I don't know what was going on with the emails, but I kept kind of contact the person who sent me it, and I never heard anything back. I don't know if that's you who are emailing me. If this is you who owns the burn steer, give me your address. I'll send it back to you. It needs to go home. It's not doing anything here. It needs to come back to whoever, to its home. It really does. So no, I have no plans for burn steer. So yeah, that was probably the quickest answer in the world. So yeah, I hope I answered your questions, everybody. I hope there's something informative in this A&Q. And yeah, I'll see you again on Friday for another vid. Speaking of gold tops, Friday's vid, you'll see a gold top. Okay, it's not a Gibson though. It's not necessarily technically a Les Paul, but it kind of is. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this Q&A. If you want to submit a question for A&Q, description box below has an email link. Just forward your email there. Forward your question to that email link. Email your question to that email link. These are clever boys, are Dave. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this video, everybody. I'll see you again very soon for another one. Have a great morning, afternoon, and good evening. And yeah, goodbye now. Thanks so much for watching. Haha.